European Union leaders have again been discussing how to respond to the huge numbers of migrants arriving at the EU's borders from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan. This week, EU Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker warned that the EU is running out of money to handle the crisis. He called on national governments to dig deeper, and the crisis is putting relations between EU countries under strain. In Germany, the Interior Minister has said that Austria should stop waving asylum seekers through to Germany and start processing their applications in Austria. Joko reports from the German-Austrian border.
They've come from Syria, Afghanistan and Iraq, ending up at this holding point on the Austrian border. Local volunteers call out numbers on the different coloured wristbands given to everyone before they pass through. Now it's the turn of Salma and her family. Their delight and relief, all too obvious. They fled Syria a month ago and have finally made it to Germany. They are just a few of nearly 80,000 people who have crossed into the Bavarian border town of Freilassing. It's become a front line in this European migrant crisis, with tensions mounting between German and Austrian authorities in recent weeks. And this is why migrants arriving at Salzburg train station are looked after in this underground car park, but they're not registered here. It's just a staging post for a few days at most.
Today I've talked with one who wants to go to Sweden or Finland, but if you talk with the refugees, they only have Germany as their goal. They want to go there.
That's because of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel's bold policy to welcome all Syrian refugees. The reality on the ground for a small town like Freilassing is that everyday life has been turned upside down.
Everything is more difficult. Naturally, the borders are being controlled. There are queues and people feel that they are not as free as before to come and go.
The mayor has voiced his concerns directly to Angela Merkel at a recent meeting in Berlin. She told him she was working tirelessly to find a solution. As the political pressure mounts, the response locally has been impressive. This furniture warehouse has been turned into a temporary shelter run by volunteers, state police and local government. Salma and her family would have spent just a matter of hours here before being moved on to the local train station with 1,200 other people and transported to other cities across Germany. All the people here now have just arrived a few hours ago. They'll be gone by tonight. How does it feel to be safe here in Germany?
Yes, so good. Everything good. Thank you, Germany.
The German people have treated you well?
Yes. It's beautiful, Germany.
It's a huge logistical operation, and the strain on local and national resources is beginning to show.
Aber mittlerweile ist es halt so.
Our capacity is limited, although we do have officials and volunteers to help with the whole process. Basically, we are ready to help, but in the last few weeks we are reaching our limits.
The flow of people shows no sign of slowing down. As they move on to their final destination elsewhere in Germany, the impact of this mass migration will be felt across Europe for many years.
Joko reporting there. The scale of the migrant crisis, refugee crisis, asylum seeker crisis, whatever you'd like to call it, it seems so far to be beyond Europe's ability to resolve.
It's very, very difficult, and they are refugees, of course. The vast majority of those coming to Europe are fleeing from Syria. Most of them do come from Syria, and they are refugees. They are not safe.
Are they refugees or economic migrants, or can we even tell the difference now?
Well, I think what we need to see this in the perspective of a humanitarian crisis, because we know that there's war, a serious war going on in Syria. People are fleeing because they are not safe. People don't give up their homes, their families, their livelihood, go across dangerous seas for no reason. So and it is
but whatever we call it,
crisis.
I mean, let's not get hung up in the nomenclature. It's clearly a humanitarian crisis. The question is Europe seems nowhere near working out how to resolve it, how to deal with it.
It's been a huge strain on Europe, and we have to admit that. It's Germany alone, they have just in the last 5 months been 120,000 refugees just from Syria. It's a massive thing that's going on here.
So what should the solution be? What should the European response be?
Well, I think the EU needs to work together on this much more than it has done, and there needs to be a much fairer apportionment. At the moment, it's Germany and Sweden and France, in fact, who have taken most of the refugees. I think the EU needs to come to much more of an agreement to share them around a bit, because it's just not working very well. Although Germany, and your clip was very interesting, has welcomed a lot of these refugees and is doing, by the sounds of it, a very good job.
Though it's causing Chancellor Merkel some real problems now, but I'll come back to that. Surely if Europe is to cope with this, it's a massive influx. It isn't going to go away. The burden, the problem has to be shared.
It does, but it just shouldn't be shared across Europe. It should be shared across the Arab world as well. And you look at the Middle East and Gulf states, the rich Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, they are doing absolutely nothing to help their co-religionists. They're not taking anybody in.
Well, so they're not going there.
So, but they
don't want to go there.
Well, why do they want to?
If you were a secular Syrian out of Damascus,
are they coming from
why
Syria?
would you want to go to Saudi Arabia?
But are they coming from Syria? Eurostat, the European Union's own statistical collecting body, said that between April and June this year, 80% of the people who were coming weren't coming from Syria.
That was the ones coming out of Libya. I perfectly understand
not just Libya, Afghanistan, Pakistan,
but coming out
Gambia,
of Turkey,
Nigeria.
coming out of Turkey, which is where most of them are coming into Greece, are overwhelmingly Syrian. Well, so why should they not be shared around?
Well, actually, Andrew, you know, the German authorities are saying that 1 in 3 who turn up with a Syrian passport in Germany, it turns out to be fake. They're on the Turkish black market for €500 a pop. And now when you've got ISIS saying that they're going to flood our continent with their Islamists who want to cause us harm, don't you think we would do something about this? We don't know who these people are.
Well, I think that is unduly alarmist. In fact, it's bordering on being ridiculous. These are people who are fleeing from war.
Ridiculous.
This is a humanitarian issue. Some of them, very, very few, may be terrorists.
The majority are fleeing from war.
Obviously, we need to take action to deal with that. But most of them are ordinary people who are fleeing from a country where they are absolutely not safe.
Mostly
Nobody
men.
braves what they've gone through to leave somewhere unless they really have a good reason, an overwhelmingly good reason.
Look, the majority are not coming from Syria. They're overwhelmingly young men. And the fact is, you know, even the German Employment Agency has a report which has been leaked that next year alone there'll be 400,000 new welfare claimants in Germany because over 80% of them are unqualified and unskilled.
Can I ask you a broader question about this? Because it seems to me this is developing into the European Union's biggest ever crisis. It's much bigger than the Eurozone, because that only affected the Eurozone. This is affecting all of Europe. In the end, the Eurozone crisis came down to Greece, a very small part. We've had Donald Tusk, the president of the European Council, Jean-Claude Juncker, the president of the Commission, Federica Mogherini, who is the head of foreign policy, all saying in their own ways, this is an existential crisis for Europe. Europe, they've all said, different language, may not survive this.
Obviously, there is massive concern, and the fact that all 3 of the institutions, the heads, are saying this, means that we do need to deal with it. The point is, though, Andrew, that often existential crises seem to happen to the EU. As you said, the Eurozone, there have been ones before. Europe does have an ability to get through this. I think this is a massive crisis, and it's a crisis not only for Europe, but for the Middle East as well.
Right, well, we're going to stick with the European crisis, but we're going to narrow into one particular country now.